Welcome to Nicole's Nightmare Narratives. Tonight, we venture into the dark and foreboding heart of the Witch's Forest, a place steeped in legend and mystery. This is the chilling tale of the haunting of the Witch's Forest. The legend of the witch. The Witch's Forest, also known as Blackwood Forest, lies on the outskirts of the small town of Elmsbrook. For centuries, the forest has been shrouded in an eerie, almost palpable darkness. The local townsfolk tell tales of an ancient witch who once lived deep within the woods. Her name was Morgana, a woman reputed for her mastery of dark magic and her ability to commune with the spirits of the forest. According to legend, Morgana was a healer who initially used her powers for good, helping the townspeople with their ailments. However, as time passed, she became more reclusive, spending her days in the forest, performing strange rituals and speaking in unknown tongues. The townspeople grew fearful and began to suspect that she had turned to dark magic. The turning point came when a terrible plague struck Elmsbrook. Desperate and terrified, the townsfolk blamed Morgana, believing that she had cursed them. A mob formed, and they ventured into the forest to confront the witch. When they found her, they accused her of witchcraft and sentenced her to death. Morgana was burned at the stake, but with her dying breath, she cursed the forest and all who dared enter it. From that day on, strange occurrences plagued the forest. Those who ventured too deep into Blackwood Forest often vanished without a trace or returned with tales of ghostly apparitions, disembodied voices, and an overwhelming sense of dread. The forest became a place of fear and mystery, avoided by all but the bravest souls. The first expeditions. In the years following Morgana's death, several expeditions were organized to explore Blackwood Forest and uncover the truth behind the legends. The first expedition was led by a renowned explorer, Thomas Hargrave, and his team of adventurers. They entered the forest with confidence, armed with maps, supplies, and a determination to solve the mystery. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they began to experience strange phenomena. The air grew colder, and an unnatural fog enveloped them, obscuring their path. They heard whispers in the wind, and the trees seemed to close in around them, creating an oppressive atmosphere. Despite their growing unease, they pressed on. After several days, the team stumbled upon the remains of an old cabin. It was dilapidated and covered in vines, but it appeared to be the witch's former home. Inside, they found remnants of her life, ancient books filled with cryptic symbols, dried herbs, and strange artifacts. As they explored the cabin, they discovered a hidden basement, accessible through a trapdoor. The basement was dark and damp, filled with an overwhelming sense of malevolence. In the center of the room was a stone altar, stained with dark, dried blood. The walls were covered in strange symbols and writings, some of which seemed to pulse with an eerie glow. As they examined the altar, one of the team members, Emily, accidentally triggered a hidden mechanism. The room was suddenly filled with a blinding light, and the team found themselves surrounded by ghostly apparitions. The spirits were angry and vengeful, their eyes burning with a hatred that sent shivers down the explorers' spines. The team fled the cabin, but not all of them made it out. Thomas Hargrave was among the missing, his fate unknown. The hauntings intensify. The disappearance of Thomas Hargrave and his team only served to heighten the fear and mystery surrounding Blackwood Forest. Stories of hauntings became more frequent, with locals reporting ghostly figures at the forest's edge, strange lights in the trees, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. One particularly chilling account came from a young couple, Sarah and James, who decided to camp in the forest despite the warnings. They set up their tent near a clearing and settled in for the night. As darkness fell, they heard strange noises, branches snapping, whispers carried by the wind, and distant, haunting laughter. Sarah and James tried to ignore the sounds, attributing them to their imagination. However, their fear grew when they noticed shadowy figures moving just beyond the light of their campfire. The figures seemed to dance and weave through the trees, their movements erratic and unnatural. Terrified, the couple retreated into their tent, hoping the flimsy fabric would provide some protection. But the night was far from over. Around midnight, they were awoken by a chilling scream echoing through the forest. It was followed by a series of guttural, inhuman sounds that grew closer and closer. Suddenly, their tent was ripped open by an unseen force, and they were dragged out into the clearing. They saw the ghostly apparitions of Morgana and the spirits she had summoned, their faces twisted in anger and pain. The spirits circled them, their voices a cacophony of whispers and screams. dreams, the couple blacked out, only to wake up the next morning on the edge of the forest, unharmed but forever haunted by their experience. Modern-day investigations. Despite the chilling tales and countless warnings, modern-day paranormal investigators and thrill-seekers continued to be drawn to Blackwood Forest. One such investigator was Dr. Evelyn Carter, a renowned parapsychologist with a fascination for the supernatural. Determined to uncover the truth about the witch's forest, she assembled a team of experienced investigators and set out to document their findings. Dr. Carter's team was equipped with the latest technology: thermal cameras, electromagnetic field detectors, and audio recorders. They planned to spend several nights in the forest, setting up camp near the site of the old cabin. On their first night, they experienced the same strange phenomena that had plagued previous explorers. The temperature dropped dramatically, and an unnatural fog rolled in, reducing visibility. The team set up their equipment and began their investigation. As they explored the forest, they recorded numerous anomalies. Their thermal cameras captured cold spots and shadowy figures that seemed to flit between the trees. The audio recorders picked up whispers, laughter, and the faint sound of chanting in an unknown language. On the second night, the team ventured to the site of the old cabin. The structure was even more dilapidated than before, with vines and moss covering the walls. Inside, they found the trapdoor to the basement still intact. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, they descended into the darkness. The basement was just as they had imagined: damp, cold, and filled with an overwhelming sense of malevolence. They set up their equipment around the stone altar, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. As they conducted their investigation, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. Suddenly, the room was filled with a blinding light, and the ghostly apparitions of Morgana and the spirits she had summoned appeared. The team was surrounded, their equipment going haywire. Dr. Carter, determined to make contact, began to speak to the spirits, asking them why they remained in the forest. To their surprise, the spirits responded. Through a series of EVP recordings, they learned that Morgana had been wrongfully accused and executed. In her final moments, she had cursed the forest, binding the spirits of the townsfolk who had wronged her to the land. The spirits were trapped, unable to move on, their anger and pain keeping them tethered to the physical world. The attempt to lift the curse, armed with this new information, Dr. Carter and her team decided to attempt to lift the curse and free the spirits. They believed that by performing a ritual to undo Morgana's curse, they could release the trapped souls and bring peace to the forest. The ritual required a series of incantations and the use of specific artifacts, including herbs and symbols found in Morgana's old books. The team prepared for the ritual, gathering in the basement of the cabin. They arranged the artifacts around the stone altar and began to chant the incantations. The air grew thick with tension, and the temperature dropped sharply. Shadows flickered on the walls, and a low, ominous hum filled the room. As the ritual progressed, the team felt a powerful force resisting their efforts. The room shook, and objects flew across the basement. The ghostly apparitions of Morgana and the spirits appeared, their faces twisted in anger and pain. Dr. Carter continued to chant, her voice steady and unwavering despite the chaos around her. Finally, with a surge of energy, the ritual reached its climax. The spirits let out a piercing scream and dissolved into a mist. The room fell silent, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The team felt a sense of peace and relief, knowing that the trapped souls had been released. The aftermath. With the curse lifted, Blackwood Forest was no longer a place of fear and darkness. The strange occurrences ceased, and the forest began to return to its natural state. The local townsfolk, once terrified of the woods, started to venture into the forest again, no longer fearing the wrath of Morgana's spirit. Dr. Carter and her team documented their findings and shared the story with the world. Their investigation became a landmark case in the field of paranormal research, demonstrating the power of determination and compassion in the face of the unknown. Despite the success of the ritual, the forest retained an air of mystery. Some visitors reported feeling a lingering presence, as if the spirits of the past still watched over the land. The legend of Morgana and the witch's forest became a cautionary tale, reminding people of the dangers of fear and superstition. The haunting of the witch's forest stands as a testament to the enduring power of legends and the resilience of the human spirit. The story of Morgana and the trapped souls serves as a reminder that the past can haunt us, but with courage and compassion, we can find a way to bring peace to even the darkest of places. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of the Witch's Forest. Stay tuned for more chilling tales on Nicole's nightmare narratives. Until next time, beware of the shadows, and remember, some stories are better left untold.